morning, everyone. We know there are a million things you could be doing this morning, so thank you so much for spending it with us. I may be a little bit biased, but I think you made the right choice today. So this is STG217. I'm Soo Yoon. I'm a product manager with AWS Transfer Family, and I'm joined by my colleague, Tai Bing, who's a senior SDM on our team. Today, Tai Bing and I are so excited to talk to you all about AWS Transfer Family web apps, which are no-code, fully managed web apps, and how you can use these to simplify file sharing within your organization. All right, let's get started. A quick run-through of today's agenda. So first, I'm going to start by defining the current state, talking about a problem that we've heard from you, and sharing our solution to the problem, Transfer Family web apps. I'll go through the benefits, the features of web apps, and I'll share about how web apps can meet your use cases. Then we'll walk through end-to-end how it works. Tai Bing's going to follow up with an awesome demo so you can take away and do it yourself. And finally, we'll wrap up with some resources and takeaways. The last item on this agenda, which is more of an implied item, is Q&A. So after the session, Tai Bing and I will stick around, so please come up to us. We'd love to hear your questions. All right, let's do this. So let's first start about talking about data in today's modern business environment. Today, our world becomes increasingly interconnected, and it is crucial for you to be able to share and access data across diverse sources. For many of you, Amazon S3 is key to your data strategy because it offers object storage that is scalable, durable, highly available, and secure. Now, I want you to picture your business environment. You have applications, both on-prem and in the cloud. They all probably serve different functions, whether it's your CRM, it's your financial software, it's your analytics platforms, and more. Now, fold in the human element. You have users who are external and internal to your organization. You have users who are probably dispersed across locations, time zones, departments, functions, and more. And it's also very important for your users to be able to access and share your organizational data. So with that picture in mind, as you can see, it becomes very complex to think about managing data access at scale. And that's where AWS Transfer Family comes in. We launched 6 years ago in 2018 at reInvent, and today our service offers bidirectional file transfer capabilities. And this is to and from your AWS storage locations and your business partners. And this is also over industry standard protocols like SFTP, FTPS, and AS2. And over the 6 years, we've launched several low-code capabilities to make it even easier for you to move your workloads to the cloud. For example, last year we launched SFTP connectors, so you can transfer files to and from Amazon S3 and your remote SFTP servers. We also added additional protocol options for your servers over the years, additional authentication options, and this is also you can easily lift and shift your existing file transfer integrations. And most recently, this year, we also announced an integration with Amazon EventBridge, so you can take that file transfer context and have these flexible granular triggers to further automate your workflows. And this has been great. We've heard really great feedback from you all about how you can use Transfer Family for your batch file transfer use cases, for your application space use cases. And some common use cases we've heard from you include, if you're in industries that deal with highly sensitive information, you're using Transfer Family for your regulated document exchange. Or you may be using Transfer Family for your enterprise resource platform integration, for transferring your POs, your order, inventory reports, and more. If you're an M&E customer, you may be using Transfer Family for your content distribution use cases, for transferring your large media files. And finally, last but not least, and certainly not of all, you may be using Transfer Family for your device integration, where your devices are automatically collecting and sending data to AWS. And again, this has worked really well for your applications. But over the years, we've started to hear a common challenge from you all that you face, that when it comes to your users and These users can be non-technical, your users can be unfamiliar with AWS. It can be challenging to share your data with them at scale. I'd like to just know, quick show of hands, does anyone else have this problem in their organization today? Awesome. I'm seeing quite a few hands, and perhaps these key challenges resonate with you as well. We've heard a lot of challenges from customers over the years. Here are just 3. So first, security. We've heard from you that desktop clients are often restricted or limited for use either in your organization or in your partners' organizations. And then you can buy a solution, but these are expensive, and these often come with high licensing costs and vendor lock-in. You can also build your own solution, but this requires you to code, host your own application, or set up and manage infrastructure. And as we've connected with you all over the years, we've really started to define and uncover this need for a turnkey solution, which can either help you accelerate your development, or it can just simply offer you easy setup, management, and implementation. This is why I'm so excited to be here with you today to share about AWS Transfer Family Web Apps, which launched this past Sunday. So Transfer Family Web Apps are a fully managed file transfer interface for Amazon S3. Let me walk you through just a few key benefits. So first, Transfer Family Web Apps are super easy to set up with a streamlined process end-to-end, so you can get up and running quickly with a production-ready web app. With our web apps, there's also built-in customizations, so you can truly align this web app to your company brand so your users know that this app belongs to you. And then if we think about the end user I was talking about before, the end user who may be non-technical or unfamiliar with AWS, this browser experience is truly designed with that user in mind, so it's simple to use. Finally, as part of Transfer Family, our web apps share the same compliance with industry standard certifications like HIPAA, PCI, and more. Here's the first sneak peek of the web apps interface. So your end users, when they go into your web app, this is what they would see with some end user functionalities. This is just a quick sneak peek, but Taiping's actually going to walk you through a demo, and he's going to show you live all the different end user functionalities that will be available for your users. All right, now I'm sure you may be curious about some of the web app features. I, again, wanted to highlight just a few, but there's so much more in our product page that I will share with you later. So with AWS Transfer Family Web Apps, you can federate users using your existing identity providers, so nothing changes for your users. There's also fine-grained access control, so if your users are dispersed and you want to grant specific user-specific access to data, you can do that through our web apps. Again, with the customization options, there's several built-in options like being able to customize your URL, being able to add a company logo, being able to add a favicon, and also being able to customize the page title. Finally, with web apps, there is built-in automated logic, so this offers you high throughput data transfers, and there's also built-in integrity checks for your uploads. And again, as part of Transfer Family, our web apps also share the same benefits. So this means a few things. It means your web app is fully managed and highly available, so it scales to meet your needs. It's also pay as you go, so you only pay for what you use. And as part of AWS ecosystem, it's integrated so you can further automate your downstream actions. And finally, the web app is easy to use, both for you as the admin and for your end users. And lastly, again, with Transfer Family, it's secure and compliant, so you can maintain your data governance, security, and your industry standards. Now, let's shift gears slightly from talking about the web apps to talking about how web apps can address your use cases. We've heard from lots of our customers and customers in our beta, and we've heard how web apps can address various use cases. I'll share the top 3, but there are many. So first, we've heard from you that with web apps, you can set up a portal for your workforce to be able to easily access, upload, download, browse your organizational data. And this can be useful for a variety of reasons. Maybe your users want to update the latest, and previously they had to open tickets. Now they can do this directly through web apps. Or if you also have external partners and you're centrally managing your partners and your workforce, you can quickly set up a portal, an interface for you to be able to share your data with your partners and just have a central hub. Say maybe you're working with researchers and they all need access to your data. And finally, if you're a builder, you may be using or you may have tested out S3 access grants. And you've done the hard work of creating the grants, and now you just want a managed interface to be able to visualize and interact with these grants. And web apps will help you do that really quickly. But let's actually hear from some of our customers about their use cases. One customer I wanted to highlight is DNA Link. DNA Link is a genomic sequencing company that provides solutions to researchers, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare institutions worldwide. DNA Link came to us because they had to share large data sets with their researchers and their partners. And previously, they were relying on an email-based system to share out these data sets, but they were looking for a way to make this more secure and for authentication. And they were looking for something that they didn't have to code, something that's fully managed. And that's where web apps came in. DNA Link joined their beta, and they found that they could use Transfer Family web apps to quickly stand up a portal that is secure and reliable for their partners to be able to log in, access only the data that they're able to access, and perform only the actions that they're authorized to perform. Now, instead of relying on email attachments, DNA Link can just provide this one portal for their researchers to be able to access its data. Now, I wanted to also talk about one more customer, Capillary Technologies. Capillary Technologies is a global SaaS provider that provides end-to-end loyalty programs across 30-plus countries, working with over 250 brands. Capillary Tech actually already leveraged SFTP through Transfer Family, and it's worked really well for their global applications. But Capillary Tech came to us because they had an additional requirement. They wanted to authenticate their human users using modern authentication mechanisms like multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and more. And with web apps, they also joined our beta, and they found that now they could set up a quick interface for their users to now be able to authenticate using MFA, SSO, and now, in addition to SFTP for their applications, they're now able to also leverage web apps for their human users. I did want to take a quick pause and just mention that you may have heard about Storage Browser for Amazon S3, which launched this past Sunday. And you may be wondering, how does this relate to what I'm talking about right now? Well, Storage Browser for S3 is an open source component that our friends over at S3 and Amplify work to develop. And we are so excited to share that we were able to take Storage Browser for S3 and use it as a core building block to offer web apps to you as a fully managed offering. Now that we've talked about web apps and the use cases and benefits, let's actually talk about how web apps work. So at high level, here is the flow from you as the admin to your end user when they access your web app. So as the admin, you create this web app, you share the URL with your users then plug that URL into their browsers, they're redirected to authenticate. Once they authenticate, they land back in the web app, and now they see the files and folders exactly the way you wanted to present them. Your users receive the temporary credentials from S3 access grants as the user access control machine, and they are then able to see only the data that they're authorized to see and perform only the actions that you authorize them to perform. In the next few slides, I'm actually just going to talk strictly about the admin experience and how you can actually create and get started with a production-ready web app. Cool. So let's put our admin hats on. When we think about creating a web app, there are 3 components. User authentication is driven through AWS IAM Identity Center, which also offers MFA and enables SSO. And then your user access controls, user permissions, are driven through S3 access grants. Finally, these 2 components, Identity Center and S3 access grants, feed into Transfer Family web apps. Let's go one level deeper into these different components. So your web app is an AWS managed application that is natively integrated with IAM Identity Center. Just curious, anyone here using Identity Center today? Okay, awesome. I'm seeing quite a few hands. So you can think of Identity Center as a central hub to manage access across your AWS applications. It's that single point of federation for your users and groups. This is really helpful because now you only need to integrate your identity provider once to Identity Center, and you get that user-aware access that is transferred downstream to your different applications. So in this case, your web apps, S3, and S3 access grants all have the shared understanding of your users. And also with Identity Center, with that user awareness access, now you're able to have the ability to audit and monitor your user actions down to the user identity. This makes it more straightforward for you. This simplifies your user management. And speaking of access, let's talk about the next step after user authentication. To put it simply, you have your authenticated users, you have your data, now you want to map the 2. And you want to do this in a relatively straightforward way. That's where S3 access grants comes in. I did talk about S3 access grants earlier, but just another quick show of hands. Anyone here familiar with S3 access grants? Have you tested out S3 access grants? Okay. Seeing a couple of hands, awesome. And if your hand is not up, let me give you a brief summary of what S3 Access Grants is. Just as some history, S3 Access Grants was launched last year at reInvent from Amazon S3. And you can think of S3 Access Grants as providing an additional layer of granularity and expressiveness on top of IAM. Again, going back to your authenticated users, when we think about our users and we have that data and we want to map the 2, you can do this through access grants in an intuitive grant style way. Then to your users, you're now vending just-in-time, least privilege, and temporary credentials. And based on these grants, you get that detailed end user interactions down to the user identity. So on the right hand, or maybe it's the left hand. On the right hand, you can see the flow of S3 access grants, and then underneath in that table, you see some samples of grants. So for example, as you can see for the grantees, the 80 group red project has read-write access to the red folder, or I'm referring them to folders or prefix, but the red project group also only has read access to the blue folder or prefix. So we'll see how that works with web apps in this next slide. And let's just talk about really quickly how S3 access grants work with your web app. So let's say I'm one of your employees, and now I have this really cool web app to use through my web browser. So I, as your end user, I'm authenticated, I see my files and folders, and now I want to actually access a location. And let's say in my folders, I want to upload my latest analysis, and I also want to download something in my team share folder. It's really important, so I'm really hoping I have the permission to do this. So the web app will assume an identity-bearing role, and it will call S3 Access Grants on behalf of my identity. S3 Access Grants will take this request, they'll look it up, see if there's a matching grant, and if there's a grant, it's going to give me the right access levels to that location. So now I, as a user, have these scoped down credentials, and I'm able to perform upload, download, browsing actions on the web app. So let's keep going. We talked about the various components. Now let's put it all together. Again, it all starts with Identity Center. And if you don't already have one, we would be creating an Identity Center instance to connect to our identity source. You can set up either an organizational or an account instance. And the difference between the two is most of our customers are using organization instances today. And this is helpful if you want to centrally manage access to multiple applications. But there's also something called an account instance, which you can use if, let's say, you want to give your web app and isolate it to just a select group of users. Or maybe you don't plan to adopt Identity Center across your organization, but you want to support this one AWS application, in this case, web apps. And then in Identity Center, I'm using the Identity Center directory as my identity source today. And that's why in my settings, this is the Identity Center view. I'm able to set things like MFA, enable users to register their devices, et cetera. But you can imagine if you're using an external identity provider like Okta or Entra, this would be happening there. And then after you create your Identity Center instance, there's a one-time step of linking your S3 Access Grants instance and your Identity Center. After you do this, so Identity Center can talk to S3 Access Grants, there's two steps in S3 Access Grants. The first step is to register a location like an S3 bucket or a prefix, and then associate this location with an IAM role that has the permissions to access this data. Now, after you register this location, you now want to create a permission grant that will allow your user or group in your directory to access this data. So there's three parts to this. The first is the grant scope. This is the S3 bucket or prefix that you are granting access to. This is what you previously registered in the last view. Then there's the permission level. This is where you set read, write permissions or both for your user or group. And finally, there's the grantee type. This is your corporate user or your corporate group that you want to give them the permissions to this location. After those two steps, now you're in Transfer Family. And in Transfer Family, first we need to configure the web app. So first, with Transfer Family, the web app will discover and link to your Identity Center instance, either your organizational or your account instance. Then there's a permission type. You have the options of choosing the zero-click role, and the service will create as an identity-bearing role in your account for you, or you can use an existing role. You can also add a tag, like a name, if you want to easily be able to identify your web app later if you have multiple web apps. And finally, you would provision the number of web app units, and this supports the concurrent connections of your users, and this can be adjusted after you create the web app as well. And then the fun part. After you configure your web app, you have some design options. These are all optional, up to you, but if you do want to further customize your web app, you have the option to specify the page title. This is what would appear in the browser tab to your end users. You also have the option to add a company logo. This is what will show up in the top left header of your web app. And finally, you can also add a favicon, and this is a browser tab icon that's again presented to your end users. It's not on this screen, but after you create your web app, there is also an option to customize the URL as well, and you can do this through creating a CloudFront distribution. After your web app is created, now you want to actually assign your users and groups to access this web app. You can do this directly in the web app console. And if you're using Identity Center as an identity source like I am, you have the option of creating new users directly from this web app. Or if you're using an external identity provider, you would search for your existing users and groups by looking up their display name. Now that you have your web app created, share your URL, and then your end user, or me in this case, I will plug it into my web browser, and now I'm directed to log in. So again, since I'm using the Identity Center directory, this is the Identity Center login page, but you can imagine that this would be whatever identity provider's login page of the identity provider that you are using. And after you log in, your user would then have this web app to log in, where they're able to perform certain actions like being able to create a new folder and name that folder. They would also be able to upload a single file, multiple files, upload an entire folder. Drag and drop is also supported. You can also download files and multiple more functionalities that, again, Taibing's going to go through in a demo, so I'm not going to belabor into these. And with that said, I'm so excited to pass off to Taibing, who's going to demo everything I just showed you live.
Thank you, Sue. I don't need to click or anything. Good. Thank you, Sue. That was a really good introduction and very detailed walkthrough of what the web app does. Can you guys hear me? Thank you very much. So glad you're here, and so glad I have the opportunity to demo this. This is very exciting. Many customers have been asking this for a while. We're so excited here to be here launching this, and hopefully you guys can pick it up. So what I'm going to do is really enable you to be able to use this, when you leave the session, right? So there are 3 things I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through how to set up this really quickly, and then I'm going to walk through all the features you're going to be using, and then we'll talk about how this is integrated with the rest of the AWS ecosystem. That sound good? Okay. So to set this up, for this demo, we're going to be using Identity Center, which is called IDC, and then I need to switch my computer to here. Right. So we'll start with IDC. I've already established IDC, Identity Center. As Sue mentioned, you can have an organization-wide IDC, or for your smaller application, you can have a one account IDC. So in this case, I happen to have organizational IDC. And in this IDC, I have one user named John Doe. That's our user. We want to enable John to be able to log in to this web app and download and upload files. So first, I go to this IDC, and I already have a John. I have a password set up just for this demo. So it should be pretty easy for you to do that. And next, I'm going to S3 access grants to give John access. So I'm going to walk you through this. First, I don't have any S3 access grants, so I want to create one. And so I'm going to go here and create one. First, the S3 access grants instance, we want to link to our Identity Center. So we're going to click this button and put our Identity Center ARN here. So we're going to go here, find our ARN, which is in Settings. And this is the ARN, which is copy that ARN, and come over here and put our ARN there. That's it. And we'll go to the next step. And we'll go to next step. So now that was the one-time link your Identity Center with your access grant. So that was a one-time thing. And now we're going to start registering S3 locations. So where do we want John to access, right? So I've already created a bucket in my S3 bucket here. I have this My Transfer Family web app bucket. And in that, I have a download folder and an upload folder. What I want John to be able to do is I want to give him access, read-write access to the upload folder, but I also just want to give him read access to the download folder, right? Does that make sense? Let's see how to do that. So first, let's give him access to read-write to upload. So I'm going to go upload. I'm going to copy the URI and come here. And this is the location scope. I'm here. Then we're going to choose a role. For the demo, I already established a role. This role allows access grant to access the S3 bucket. So I have a role, just called web app. Identity access grants. So this is our role, and we'll go to next. Now we have created the register location. Now we're going to see what kind of access we give to John about this location. We said, okay, anything under this particular prefix I just registered, and I want to give read and write to this particular directory IDC user. Now you can do group, but I just did user. Now we just need to find the user ID. So we're going to go back to the first tab in IDC, and we'll go to user, and we'll find John's ID. There's under general information, there's user ID. We copy that. We come back here. We enter the user ID. And that's it. We just give John this user ID, read-write access to that location we register. Click next. We'll review everything. Looks good. Let's click finish. So now you can see I have a S3 access grants here. And so it's linked to the identity center here. And I have one location registered, which is the upload folder. And I have one grant here created, which is a read-write permission. So I need to create, now that's good. Now I'm going to do another one, which is the download folder for read-only. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to locations. I'm going to register another location. This time, we're going to go to my S3 bucket, go back here, go to download. And I'm going to copy the S3 URI, come back here, paste it there. That's the URI. And then again, I'm going to pick the same role I was using before, which is access grant, web app. So web app, access grant. And I'm going to register that location. So now you can see I have two locations registered. I need to create one more grant for that newer location. So I'm going to go create grant, browse the location, and pick the download location, choose path, suffix, I'm put anything under that, John will have access to access. And this time, this is the critical part, I'm going to do read-only, directory user, and this user, and make sure we copy our John's ID again. And we come here, we put John's ID here, and create grant. Now I have two grants, two locations. This is the core part. So I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and start creating my web apps. I'm going to my third tab. You head to AWS Transfer Family. On the left side, there's the web app. You can click on that. And then on the right side, we just create web app. It will automatically try to link with your IDC in your account. And it finds my IDs linked. So I will, for easy, I'll just let it create a service role. And this role will allow the web app to access the access grants. So it will create a new role. For the demo, I'll just do one app unit. You can, if you have a larger user base, then you can go more. And I like to tag my resources. Let's see, I'll just do name. And I'll just say my web app. I go to next. This is where the fun part Sue talked about. You can pick a title. I'm kind of boring. I'll just say my web app. And I'm going to choose a logo. So I'll just choose Amazon logo here. And I'll choose a favicon. It'll be the Amazon icon here. And later we can check when we log in. When John logs in, we should be able to see that in the app. So let's go next. Review everything looks good. We'll create a web app. That was it. That wasn't too hard. But before John logs in, we need to do one more thing. We need to go to our S3 bucket, add a course origin resource sharing. Anyone knows what course is? Course policy? Yeah. Allows web apps to share a different domain name from different domain resources. So we're going to go to our S3 bucket, which is a Transfer Family web app. We're going to go to permissions. Here, you're going to go to here, and down there, you have a course. So here, already, I'm going to delete. This is where I had before. So I'm going to delete this one. So what you're going to use, you can use a service recommended course policy. You can find that in our Transfer Family user guide on the left side. And if you go down, come to the bottom here, the Transfer Family web apps. On there is a setup course bucket for your bucket. And you can just copy this one. I'm going to use it. You can customize it. For me, for the demo, I'm going to just use this one. I'm going to copy it and go to here and paste it. Before I hit OK, there is one placeholder I do need to change. This is the web app endpoint. So I need to go back to my web app here. And copy this access point and replace it here carefully. So now I have put my link here in the course policy. I'm going to save changes. Now I'm good to go. That wasn't too hard, was it? That wasn't too hard, right? So okay. So now to access this, we just click on this link. This is the link we're going to give to our user. Before I go there, I do want to say that if you go to the web app here, you can, Sue mentioned this, I want to point out, you can go here and you can set up a different domain. If you want to be your company's domain, you do it here through the CloudFront distribution and you link it here. So you have a different domain for that. So customized domain. So you can do that. I'm not going to do that for the demo, but it's definitely there for you. So let's go back and let's launch this thing. So we're going to click this, and this is what's going to take us to the login page. For my testing, I already kind of autofill this, but the username in this case is going to be John Doe. And I want to click next. I already have password here, but John Doe will put in his password, which we set in the IDC. So we're going to sign in. Don't update anything. Oh, let's start a new session. I didn't log out.
You need to assign your user.
Oh, thank you very much. So when I missed the one step. So when I'm done with the web app, I need to assign the users. Sue talked about that. And so we go to assign users here, and the system actually remind you. I was just not paying attention. So you can go assign users, go here, and we're going to get started. This is where you search by display name. So our John Doe start with John. So I'm going to search this, find John Doe here, assign. Now we assign our user to this, and let's log out, or let's see this works. Start a new session. Voila, demo successful. So you can see where we have a download folder and upload folder right here. John have access to, and you can see right here there's read access and there's read-write access for each folder. Super cool, and you can add multiples, of course, right? Each user can have different S3 prefix, different permissions. I find that super powerful, very flexible. Each user, each group can have multiple access grants. So let's see what we can do here. I can point out there's this logo here, Amazon logo. If you go here, there's Favicon, there's my web app. All our design worked. So let's first go to upload. We're going to go to upload, and I want to upload the entire folder. So I'm going to go to the right here and see it here. I'm going to upload, and this allow me to drag drop. The system supports drag drops. So I'm going to go to here, drag this web app test folder here, right, drop. Right there, you see? It's all there. And it preserves your folder name when you drag and drops. So that's super cool. So you click upload, and it does parallel upload. If you have large files, it does parallel upload. So I'm finished. I'm done. Before I exit, you do notice there is this overwriting existing files option. By default, the system is not going to overwrite if you already have the same file, but the user does have the option to check that box and then overwrite that. So then that's web app test. That's all our files. Now it can also do copy. So let's say I click on this file. I want to copy this to my copies folder. I can just go here and do copy and click on the destination. I'll be in my copies folder. I do a copy and finished. Exit out of this. If I go to my copies folder, you can see there's my EDI file there, 4010 EDI file. So it does copy, and you can, of course, you can download. You can just click on this button. It will just download your file. What else? You can delete, of course. So we're gonna, check these two boxes. I'm gonna go here. We can delete and delete it, and we're done deleting, and right there, we deleted everything. So one thing I really like, I thought was pretty cool for this, is that you can go up, let's say go to the upload folder here. You can search, do a recursive search under everything here. Let's say I want to find all the EDI files under here. I just type EDI here, and I do a check the include subfolders here, and I hit this button. It will show me all the EDI files under this, even on the copy store. It's a recursive search. That's super neat, so I find that very useful. And now let's go to our upload folder, and let's go to our download folder. And see, because this is read-only to John, there's this thing, menu is disabled. He can't upload anything. So just kind of want to show you that it's not just saying it's read-only, it's actually read-only. You can't do anything. You can, of course, download the file, and it's an EDI guide document. You can download a file. So this is for either for your trading partners, for your business partners, or for your internal employees. You can customize really, really well. So I've demonstrated all the kind of a core capability of a web app, and hopefully you're liking it. Now, next, I want to show you how this integrated with the rest of the AWS ecosystem, right? This is S3. So you have all the bells and whistles and comes with S3 integration with the rest of the system, right? One thing comes to mind is event, right? Every time your user upload a file, you get an event. And you can use that event to Event Bridge. From Event Bridge, you can trigger SNS. You can trigger a Lambda. You can do for example, one thing I always did for fun is you can have a user upload a PDF file. That PDF file will trigger a Lambda function, which will split PDF file into images, and which will then call Bedrock to turn that into JSON, which will then integrate that into the rest of your system. There's not much of development going. Your user can just upload a PDF file, it all goes down. For this particular demo, I just want to show you, I just did very simple. I log the events to CloudWatch logs. Every time something happens, I log the events to CloudWatch logs. So I want to show you the CloudWatch logs events, because I did some action. I delete some stuff, I create some new object here. So let's see my CloudWatch. So I set up this event to log everything to AWS Events web app access. So if I refresh here, I should have some new entries right there. And 3 minutes ago, if you look at this, you can see this is the event, S3 events showing up here. Just kind of so, it was just a simple demonstration. You can, of course, take that event and have a lot of fun with it, do all kind of things with it. And the last thing I thought was super cool is the CloudTrail integration. Both IDC and S3 Access Grants have integrated with CloudTrail. And this allows you to monitor all your users' access to S3 bucket. But you already have events, so you say, why do I need CloudTrail? But CloudTrail shows you who accessed it, the user ID. So I'm gonna go there, go CloudTrail, and I establish a trail for that particular setup. And then in this, I show this is CloudTrail create all this trail. CloudTrail does take 5 minutes to deliver everything. So 5 minutes hasn't really passed. I'm showing you something, the trail I was testing yesterday, but it's the same architecture, same structure. So there's some trail today. So let's see. Yeah, there's trail today. So for this, I'm going to click on this file, and I'm going to click on Open. And you can see this is a JSON file, and there's 2 objects here. And what I want to highlight is this has all the things you care about. Who's accessing what. What I want to highlight is this on behalf. This on behalf user ID is John Doe's user ID in your IDC. Right? So this doesn't appear in your S3 events. This is only here. So you can see all the user ID, and this is the identity store, which is your IDC identity store. So from here, you can really get fine-grained audit trace of who was accessing my file and when, and did they delete, did they access, and all that. So I thought that was super cool for enterprise users. So that will be a wrap for the demo. I hope you liked it, and I hope you can just go after this and can do that in your own account and have fun with it. So we'll be hanging out there, but afterwards. But if you have questions, so feel free to chat with us. I'm going to switch back to Sue.
Awesome. Thanks, Taibing. As you all saw, Taibing was able to create a web app and get it working in just a few minutes, and really the possibilities are endless. With that, I did want to share just a few quick call-outs that you may have seen during Typing's demo. So first, you notice that Typing added a CORS policy for the S3 bucket that he was using with his web app. As a reminder, you need to add a CORS policy for every bucket you're using with your web app. Also, you may have noticed that Typing was operating in US West 2, so your Identity Center instance, your S3 buckets, and your S3 Access Grants instance must be in the same region and account. Finally, as Typing showed you all, there is an option to edit your URL. So again, you could put your custom URL in here so you have an easy to remember URL that you can share with your end users. All right, and now let's wrap up this session. I hope you all got a good idea of how web apps can help meet your use cases. Some key takeaways for today's session. So again, you have Transfer Family, and you can use Transfer Family like SFTP, FTPS, et cetera, for your applications. But now with web apps, you can also empower your non-technical users as well, so you can meet the needs of both your technical and your non-technical users using Transfer Family. Again, you can leverage your existing identity provider, so nothing changes for your end users. And finally, we shared a few examples, but with web apps, you can kick off your business processes by enabling your users to directly share files to and from Amazon S3. We've heard 2 great customer stories already from 2 awesome customers. I just want to leave you with one final story, and this is from Georgia Data Analytics Center. Georgia Data Analytics Center pulls together data across state governments, and they provide this in an easy-to-consume format that provides transparency and accountability for their lawmakers, their agencies, researchers, and the public. And Georgia Data Analytics, like Capillary Tech from earlier, was already a Transfer Family customer, and they used SFTP to modernize their solutions. But Georgia Data Analytics Center came to us because they occasionally faced some issues where their users were running into some onboarding challenges. Some of these users weren't the most technical or unfamiliar with AWS services, and they were looking for a way to present an interface for these non-technical user personas. With web apps, Georgia Data Analytics Center plans to add this to their architecture, so now their technical users can continue to use SFTP, but now they're enhancing the user experience and offering an accessible way for their non-technical users to be able to transfer files using Transfer Family web apps. In terms of regional availability, web apps are available for your use in these 9 regions that you see on the screen. In terms of pricing, web apps are priced at 50 cents per hour per unit. And we've mentioned units before, but just to clarify, one web app unit can support up to 250 concurrent user sessions. So this means user activity from 250 user logins at a time. And again, this can be adjusted in your web app. If you'd like to know more details, there's a QR code if you'd like to look at our pricing page for more information. And if you're ready to continue diving in, I wanted to share 3 resources with you all today. So first is our launch blog. I'll just pause here because I noticed people are taking photos. But yeah, here's our news blog where you can read more about web apps and go through the walkthrough. In the middle, you see our Transfer Family product page where you're able to read more about web apps, the use cases, features, and benefits that I talked to you all about today. And finally, if you're ready to just dive right in, there is a self-paced workshop for you all, and it covers the Identity Center, using Identity Center, it covers using Amazon S3 Access Grants, and it covers creating a Transfer Family web app as well. So really encourage you all to check it out. And if you want to keep talking about web apps, there's a few more opportunities for you to do so. So first is a session happening tomorrow, STG217-NEW. Amazon S3 security and access control best practices. We encourage you all to check that out. And also STG217, connecting your workforce identity for Gen AI and analytics. This already happened, but the recording will be on YouTube, so really encourage you to watch that as well. And with that, thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time and your energy here.